Episode 4. David sat in the dimly lit living room. The folder of damning evidence spread out before him like the broken pieces of his life. The room was eerily quiet, save for the soft hum of the refrigerator in the corner. The shadows cast by the flickering streetlight outside seemed to dance mockingly across the walls, amplifying the suffocating weight that pressed down on him. The folder was a Pandora's box he could no longer ignore. Each page, each document, each damning revelation tore at his heart, shredding the foundation of trust he had built with Sarah. Memories of their life together flooded his mind. Their wedding day, the birth of their children, the promises whispered in the stillness of the night. How had it all come to this? David's thoughts spiraled as he stared blankly at the folder, his emotions swinging violently between anger, despair, and heartbreak. He thought of the countless sacrifices he had made, working double shifts, skipping meals so the children could eat, shelving his dreams to ensure his family had what they needed. All the while, Sarah had been hiding her wealth, watching him struggle, and choosing silence. A lump formed in his throat as he rubbed his temples, trying to make sense of it all. The betrayal wasn't just financial. It was personal, cutting deeper than any wound he had ever felt. A soft voice broke through his storm of thoughts. "Daddy, are you okay?" David looked up sharply, his heart sinking at the sight of his oldest daughter, Emma, standing in the doorway. She was clutching a worn stuffed bunny to her chest, her small frame silhouetted against the faint light from the hallway. Her eyes were wide with concern, and David realized too late that tears were streaming down his face. He quickly wiped at his cheeks, forcing a smile that he knew didn't reach his eyes. "I'm okay, sweetheart," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "It's late. You should be in bed." Emma hesitated, her brow furrowing as she looked at him. She was too smart for her age, and David knew she could sense that something was wrong. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. David nodded, his heart breaking at her worry. "I'm sure, honey. Daddy's just thinking about some grown-up stuff. Go back to bed, okay?" Emma lingered for a moment before nodding reluctantly. "Okay. Good night, Daddy." "Good night, sweetheart," he whispered as she turned and padded back to the bedroom, closing the door softly behind her. As soon as she was gone, the fragile mask he had been holding together shattered. David dropped his head into his hands, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The sight of Emma's innocent concern only deepened the ache in his chest. How could he protect his children from the fallout of this betrayal? How could he shield them from the storm that was about to erupt? His tears gave way to a surge of anger, raw, fiery, and consuming. He couldn't let this continue. He couldn't let Sarah's lies fester in the shadows any longer. He had to confront her, to demand the truth, no matter how painful it might be. When Sarah returned home that evening, the tension in the apartment was palpable. The children had already gone to bed, and the quietness of the space only amplified the storm brewing inside David. He was sitting on the couch when she walked in, her heels clicking against the floor. She paused when she saw him, her gaze flicking to the folder on the coffee table. For a split second, a flicker of recognition crossed her face, but she quickly masked it with her usual composed expression. "You're still up," she said casually, setting her bag down on the counter. David didn't respond immediately. He studied her, his hands clenched into fists on his lap. When he finally spoke, his voice was low but charged with emotion. "We need to talk." Sarah hesitated, her calm facade faltering ever so slightly. "Can it wait? I'm tired, and I've had a long day." "No, it can't wait," David said firmly, his eyes locking onto hers. "Sit down." She stared at him for a moment before sighing and sitting down in the chair opposite him. Her posture was rigid, her hands folded neatly in her lap. David picked up the folder, holding it up between them. "Do you know what this is?" Her eyes flicked to the folder, and she crossed her arms defensively. "I have no idea." "Don't lie to me, Sarah," David snapped, his voice rising. "This is everything you've been hiding from me. The bank statements, the property deeds, the rent receipts, including the ones from this apartment. It's all here." Sarah's jaw tightened, and she looked away, refusing to meet his gaze. How long? David demanded, his voice trembling with anger. How long have you been lying to me? Watching me struggle, watching me break myself for this family, while you sat on a fortune? It's not what you think, Sarah said finally, her voice clipped. Then explain it to me, David shouted, slamming the folder down on the coffee table. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been lying to me for years. It looks like you've been letting me suffer while you hoarded money behind my back. So tell me, Sarah, what am I missing? Her composure cracked, and she stood abruptly, her eyes blazing. You don't understand, David. You've never understood. Then make me understand, he yelled, rising to his feet. Help me understand why the woman I trusted, the woman I loved, would do this to me. For a moment, the room was silent except for their heavy breathing. Then Sarah spoke, her voice cold and sharp. I did it because I had to. Because you're too soft, David. Too trusting. You've always been content to scrape by, to let life happen to you. I couldn't live like that anymore. I needed security, for me, for the kids. And if that meant making hard choices, then so be it. David stared at her, his mouth agape. Hard choices, he repeated incredulously. You call stealing from your husband and lying to your family a hard choice? I call it survival, Sarah shot back. You can stand there and judge me all you want, but I did what I had to do. And guess what? It worked. We're not on the streets, are we? The kids are fed, clothed, and taken care of. So spare me your self-righteousness. David felt the fight drain out of him, replaced by a deep, aching sadness. At what cost, Sarah? He asked softly. You've built a life on lies. You've destroyed the trust between us. Do you even care about that? Sarah's silence was all the answer he needed. David sank back onto the couch, his head in his hands. The weight of her betrayal, her justifications, her complete lack of remorse, it was too much to bear. He didn't know what to do, but one thing was certain. Their marriage would never be the same again. If this episode left you on the edge of your seat, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss the explosive next episode of The Veil of Deceit. In the next episode, David confronts Sarah in a heart-pounding scene filled with raw emotions and shocking revelations. But Sarah's reaction will leave everyone stunned. How far will she go to defend her lies? Don't miss the dramatic episode 5, The Confrontation.